Listening to National Real Estate Auction Radio Show. I am your host, Doug Dennison, and we are broadcasting from beautiful St. Augustine, Florida, the nation's oldest city, at WFOY 1240 AM studios. Through the power of the Internet, this program is being streamed worldwide on 1240news.com. The show will also be archived on RyleAuctions.com, as they are the host of this program. Additionally, the show will be posted on YouTube.com. We're going to be talking about real estate auctions, past auctions, upcoming auctions, different real estate markets across the country. We've got a lot of topics today, and to help us out, we've got several real estate and auction leaders calling in today. Let me go over the schedule and tell you a little bit about today. We've got somebody from North Carolina. We've got somebody from New Mexico. We've got somebody from Georgia calling in. And we may have our first caller. Let's see if he's on the line. Rod, are you on the line?
Yes, good morning. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Great to have you on the show. You and I have never met, but I have been getting some of your email promotions. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Rod, and where you're from and what do you do?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and I am living in North Carolina. That's where our office is located. I'm obviously not a North Carolinian naturally. I'm from New York. But my company is the Massimo Group, and we happen to be the leading commercial real estate brokerage, coaching, and consulting organization throughout North America. And we have the privilege of working with every major national and many regional and local commercial real estate brokerage firms in one capacity or another.
Well, very good. I also saw from your information that you are a CCIM member. What does CCIM mean?
Certified Commercial Investment Member is a designation that several brokers, well, actually only 5% of the brokerage community has attained. Let's say it's a higher degree in commercial real estate investment analysis and in brokerage.
It's kind of when you want the best, you're looking for those four initials to find when you're looking for a commercial real estate agent. Is that correct?
Well, I'd say both the CCIM as well as the SAOR are very high-praised, high designation for individuals that you're looking to work with. That's correct.
Okay. Rod, tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I have been in commercial real estate since I was a little boy. Actually, my father was engaged as an owner asset manager, so I was reading leases, believe it or not, Doug, at the age of 10. And I grew up in commercial real estate. I have an education from Washington Lee University and then an MBA from Duke University's School of Business, then a career throughout many real estate organizations leading up to and through when I was working and running Sperry Van Ness out of California, but then 5 years ago going off on my own and starting the Massimo Group.
Well, Sperry Van Ness is a very good group. I've worked with them before. They're good professionals. Now, how did you get into the business of helping other commercial real estate offices and agents?
Well, when the market changed, it sounds corny, I recognize, but I had an epiphany that what I wanted to do is I wanted to create a coaching organization based solely on assisting commercial brokers to get in a better position to maximize their income. And through being extremely fortunate, we have found there's a particular niche that will invest in themselves to do just that. So our practice has grown from a couple of small guys in tertiary markets to now we're, for example, next week I'm in L.A., and the week of that I'm in New York, and New York again, and we have several coaches in our arsenal, and our systems keep on growing, and our personnel keep on growing. So it's just something I wanted to do, I felt strongly about.
Well, tell us a little bit about what do you teach? I mean, are you teaching basics? Are you teaching how to promote themselves? Are you teaching them follow through? What is some of the techniques that you use, Rod?
Well, Doug, that's a great question, and I love that you use the word teach, because it is, in fact, teaching. We don't consider ourselves trainers. Trainers are generally, I think training is a very good medium, don't get me wrong, but trainers, you come in for a day, you give them some theory, and then you walk away, and there's no implementation. So we really analyze, thorough analysis of all our clients and do a thorough diagnosis of where they are in their brokerage practice. And then from there, we create a prescription, if you may, of where they have to adjust, where they have to go to maximize their income. Now, Doug, as you said it, that may be an area of prospecting. It may be an area of creating a greater presence. It may be an area of systems and tools and processes. It may be a client orientation retention element. So there are a variety of things we work with our clients on to move their practice forward.
Tell us, what kind of companies do you go after? Or is it more of the agents? Or, to be honest, John Lewinger, who's a friend of mine for many, many years, and we did one of our first big auctions with John in New Mexico, actually told me that you were in his offices conducting training a couple months ago. Is that correct?
Well, it was actually a little longer than a couple of months ago, but how that worked out, I was actually giving a speech at a national conference for which John's company was affiliated with, and then John's manager called me up and asked me to come on in and do a 2-day session on our platform we call RAMP, R-A-M-P, ramping up your business. And so, perfect example, when we started out, yes, Doug, we were working with individual brokers, and we still do. A lot of our clients are individual brokers, but as our practice has grown, we're finding we're also working with firms, firm owners. We actually are virtual sales managers to some firms across the country. We also work with organizations. There are many organizations for which we have programs going, CBRE being one, TCN being another, and the list goes on, CBC, Coldwell Banker Commercial. The list goes on and on and on. There are organizations we're working with and providing programs for them to provide to their agents.
Is it, obviously, people would pay you money to get better, into the end result being that they would make more money. Do you have a grasp of what some of your students are doing, kind of references per se, that somebody's gone from 20 million in sales to 30 million in sales after having a session with you? Do you have any kind of information like that?
Well, I can tell you this. Coaching is a little different than actual, it's a tougher metric than just that. Because some of our clients just, quite frankly, don't do what we ask. That's the most direct way I could say it. Others engage in everything we do. I'll give you a perfect example. Bob Knackel, he owns the firm Mazzy Knackel, who is the number one firm in New York City. The number one firm in New York City for every one of the last 10 years, according to CoStar, not according to Bob.
Right.
And Bob happens to be the number one broker in that firm. When we first engaged with Bob, I'll be honest, Doug, I said, Bob, I don't know how we can help you. All our clients want to become you, quite frankly. But after sitting in Bob's office, looking what he was doing, understanding some of the opportunities he was just not engaging with, we created a structure of platforms and strategies, and Bob's the top producer in New York, and Bobby the first one to tell you, you know what, Rod? 2012 is going to be the best year of my career. And in fact, after the first quarter, based on what our goals were, which I can't provide, but based on his goals, he's ahead of his goals already in going forward. Now, that's obviously a big market, prime market, big name. Mazzy Knackel, Bob Knackel is a very well-known broker across the U.S. But we have other folks in tertiary markets, and the two things we want to work on during the 6-month time we're generally with them, most of our clients go longer, but initially 6 months. Two things we want to succeed with, Doug, are number one, build the infrastructure, solidify the base. So long after we're gone, they can continue moving forward and growing their business. So the infrastructure is key. Number two, give them some ideas, strategies, and tactics to win more listings. Do we do that? Absolutely do. So we have a plethora of testimonials on our website and on our materials regarding clients who have found that our systems and our tools have all helped them immensely in growing their business.
Well, the people who listen to this show is real estate brokers, auctioneers, bankruptcy attorneys, real estate media, government officials, and the general public. When you're looking for a commercial real estate broker, let's turn the hat a little bit, and if you've got a shopping center and you need to help selling it. What do you look for as a potential person who's going to hire a commercial real estate person?
Oh, that's a terrific question, Doug. In our book, which we're very fortunate that hit #1 in Amazon.com just 2 weeks ago for commercial real estate brokerage books, and we were thrilled it happened. But in a book I wrote, I outlined the 8 traits of the most successful, most dominant brokers. And I'll just quickly share with you those 8 traits, and we could expand on that if you wish. But First of all, when you're looking for a commercial broker, you've got to make sure, #1, and dominate being the acronym here, dominate, brokers who dominate was the name of the book. So let's talk about the dominate acronym. #1, they've got to be disciplined. Are they truly committed to their craft of commercial brokers? Unfortunately, there are many brokers, it's a hobby, something they do. They're really not focused. A pure professional will be disciplined in their practice. #2, they have to be oriented to you. If they're focused on the commission, if they're focused on themselves, walk away. Find another broker. There are plenty out there. But they totally must be engaged and engrossed with your requirements and your vision for that opportunity, whether it be a sale or a lease. Market presence. Do they have a market presence? If you asked your fellow peers before you went out to find a broker, hey, who's the best broker in town? What answers would you get from your peers, from other property owners, from other tenants, other users? Market presence is key. Also, so that's the M. Are they focused, industry focused? I don't believe in being a generalist. Yes, in certain tertiary markets, St. Augustine's a perfect example, you're going to have to be a generalist because there's not enough velocity in the marketplace. But in other markets, I want a specialist. I want the brain surgeon. I don't want a general practitioner to work on a key issue, because when you're selling a property or you're leasing a space, the financial ramifications are significant. So you do need a specialist. The N is navigating. You got to see what they do in their careers. Do they navigate their careers in the past where they move themselves to a better position to service you? Sounds funny, but yes. Have they moved themselves in a better position to service you, the client, versus jumping organization to organization because it's a better commission split? Not what we want. Also, you must find out, the A is kind of obvious. The A is, are they assertive? You want someone who's extremely assertive. Doug, we have scientific proof because all our clients go through certain profiles. Those that are assertive will absolutely, on average, have a higher, greater tendency to be more productive and be more disciplined, more goal-oriented, and get the goals that you ask them to achieve for your asset. T in dominate, team. Look, it's great finding a great broker. Fantastic. But not all brokers will be the point person for your opportunity. This is true at auctioneers as well. These facets absolutely would work with someone who auctions assets as well. In fact, our practice is now moving towards coaching all people who auction, and lawyers, you mentioned. We have a law practice starting up next year and other practice. So this all applies. So team, do they have a team orientation? Is there other people that you can rely on, or is it just them? Because if it's just them, that could be potentially problematic for a longer opportunity like an investment sale. You make sure they have resources behind them to help you. And last but not least, the E. The E is kind of simple but so strong. Are they entrepreneurial? Do they run their brokerage practice as a business? Because your client, if you're going to hire them, you're a business owner. You want someone there that says, yeah, this is a job, I'm there 9 to 5, I make my dues. No. They're totally engrossed in the professional practice and craft of commercial brokerage. That's what I said you look for, those 8 traits when going out and hiring somebody.
Well, those are very good. We're going to take a 1-minute break, and then I'm going to come back, and we're going to ask you a little bit about those questions and that information you gave me. Also want to talk to you about, I think I sent you some information about the government surplus properties and the need to sell those, and to also understand that a property that is not being used is still costing the owner. Let's go for a quick break, Rod, and we'll be right back. Okay, we are back. We're talking to Rod. Let me see if I get it right. Santo Massimo or Massimo? What is that? Give me the correct pronunciation, Rod.
It's Santo Massimo.
Okay, very, very good. Who's a CCIM. He's the founder and president of his group that goes across the country training real estate brokers, commercial real estate brokers, And you talked about a little bit about the top guy in New York. Isn't it interesting that the top people, you would think that they would rest on their laurels and that they know it all, but they're the ones who want to get better. They're the ones that invest in themselves. And a good example is this gentleman from New York.
Yeah, that's a great point, Doug. And a lot of brokers will say it's a chicken and egg. Well, of course they can afford to invest themselves. They have been successful. It's just the opposite. We found that most brokers who moved forward and became top producers, as well as it's true with any business person, whether they're doing auctions or bankruptcy attorneys, wherever they may be, they took the approach, I'm a business, I have to invest in a business, the greatest asset is myself, I've got to hone my skills. And that's the difference. When those who hone their skills, become experts in their field, are the ones that become top producers.
Well, I wanted you on this show because, again, our mission statement is to provide an educational experience for listeners in a promotional format for auctions across the country. Real estate brokers and auctioneers, they're pretty much alike. They need to go out and apply their trades and to promote themselves and to get the deal done. You said something about being assertive. And it's absolutely true. I'm not sure if assertive and outgoing is the same thing, or if it's more, the tenaciousness about going after it and keeping on it until you can get the deal done. But I was very impressed. You've got some scientific data that you think assertive people are more successful in this particular business?
Well, Doug, again, very insightful the way you just said something. I don't know if you recognize what you said in regards to, is assertiveness outgoingness? No, they're actually different. We look at 4 factors when we look at our prospects and our clients when we bring them aboard. Those 4 factors are based on a tool called AVA, which is a proven tool to show success, especially when crafted correctly for us to the brokerage community. It's used in different industries, but we created one just for the industry. And those 4 factors are, number 1, assertiveness. You hit the nail on the head. Number 2, you alluded to, is sociability. They're different. Being social and being assertive are absolutely different. Then we look at their calmness level, whether they're patient, impatient, for example. And Doug, no surprise there, most top producers aren't the most patient people. It doesn't mean they're completely impatient. They're just not on that, let's say, the right end of the scale. They're more towards the impatient scale. And last but not least, the conformity vector, as we look at, are they highly structured, highly detailed? Are they more open-minded, long-term vision, independent? Well, obviously, most top producers in the brokerage field, and I'm sure in the auction field as well, tend to be less conforming, less structured, more independent. So those 4 factors all align to how we look at someone. Now, if you don't reach and there's a certain profile, by the way, that goes with these factors that we look for. If you don't fit the suit, doesn't mean you won't be a top producer. It just means there'll be some challenges to get you there. That's all.
Very good. I talked a little bit about the government surplus properties. We're not talking about Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae. It's government surplus properties. President Obama last year in the State of Union address said there's 14,000 properties that the government is not using and want to sell to help offset the deficit in the budget. But also it's very important to get off the back of the taxpayers. There's a property up in Washington, D.C., a post office that costs the government, which is you and I, $6 million a year, and it's been unused for 10 years. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. You know a little bit about the properties that are costing, whether it's the bank or the seller or the government, money to maintain and secure. And if it was a private person saying, geez, I've got this property over there, I haven't used it in a couple of years, what should I do with it? Give me your interpretation on this and what we should do as a taxpayer to kind of give a nudge to our congressman.
Well, certainly you could take a lesson from any shopping center owner, big box owner, and how they have transformed to convert their uses to those alternative sources. I mean, certainly retail has been hit very hard in regards to vacancies throughout the country, and many stores, whether it be Bed Bath & Beyond or others, obviously don't exist anymore.
Right.
Look at your bookstores. They're all gone. It seems to be every other day a bookstore closes up.
Yeah.
So what are the highest and best uses that now, the alternative uses, you got to start thinking outside the box to get those assets filled, to get them off your books. Same approach that a bank takes. What else can we do? You know, one thing that the government doesn't do very well, let's face it, and this is not a political statement, just a fact, they don't market very well.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't. And marketing is so essential to get an asset out to the marketplace, number one, but number two, positioned correctly, targeted correctly. So from that aspect, you really have to see what are they doing to proactively market that to a target audience. If they do a poor job overall in their surplus of properties. You look at the ones that have been successful, look at some of the key developers across the country. They've went out and identified specific users for the asset. They've repositioned the asset, and now it's cash flowing.
Well,
Same approach to government.
I agree, and I'm going to give kudos to Congressman Jeff Denham, has been working on it. Just got a bill passed in the House. Hopefully he'll get it done in the Senate too. Rod, we've got to leave you, but give us how we can contact you. You've been a great interview. How can people get in touch with you and find out about your services?
Well, I appreciate that, Doug, and I very much appreciate the opportunity. You can find all you need at our website. It's Massimo, that's Massimo-group.com. That's Massimo-group.com. All information is there, and also the book website is at www.brokerswhodominate.com. So, Doug, I greatly appreciate your time and the opportunity.
Rod, thank you. Have a great weekend. And again, thank you for coming on and sharing some of your stories with us.
Take care, sir.
Take care. All right. That was really good. I like the training, the people who push other people to be better. Rod is a specialist in the commercial real estate aspect. We didn't have time to really get into the government surplus properties like I wanted to. We will have time with the next caller who has some government surplus property experience. And so right now, let's take a quick break, and we're going to be back. We're going to be talking to somebody from New Mexico and then somebody from Georgia. Okay, we are back. You're listening to National Real Estate Auction Radio. I'm your host, Doug Dennison. We've got the caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Mr. Lewinger. What a pleasure. What a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to talk to you, man. How are you doing?
Well, fine. It's been a while now, but I still remember our great times together in New Mexico. But first of all, introduce yourself to our listening audience, if you would.
I sure would. My name is John Lewinger, and I am a resident of New Mexico for over 40 years, coming from the sparsely populated place of New York City. And I'll call it my happiest moment. And I have been involved in real estate for the last 40 years in New Mexico, commercial real estate primarily. I've been very involved with the community in the last 10 years. Have become involved in banking and am the vice chairman of a bank here in Albuquerque, or in Santa Fe, really, the First National Bank of Santa Fe, which is 160 years old.
Wow.
Almost as old as you.
Not quite.
Yeah. And I'm an older guy, and in the last couple of years have started taking more time off, and it's been very, very interesting to watch all the changes in our business, in our the way people act. I mean, so many different things have changed. Some of it's generational. Some of it is because of the economy. And so it's just, I think, an extraordinarily interesting time in the business world.
Well,
I'm excited about it.
Give us your thoughts about the New Mexico marketplace, if you would, for commercial real estate.
Well, New Mexico is an interesting place. It's got approximately 2 million people. If you watch national news, you can see it covers a substantial landmass. On the south, it's bordered by Mexico. On the west, it's bordered by Arizona, Nevada. On the north, Colorado. On the east, Oklahoma and Texas. Very arid. I personally live at 7,000 feet. The city of Albuquerque is about 5,200 feet. You know, and all these different things, these climatic things, they affect how the population lives. I would say our biggest employers are government, speaking primarily of a very large Air Force base called Kirkland Air Force Base.
Mm-hmm.
We have two major labs, Sandia Labs and Los Alamos Labs. We're sort of proud of, but not always proud of, the nuclear bomb being developed in Los Alamos in the obviously the early 40s. And it's a very diverse culture. It's parts of it are very arid, parts of it are very mountainous. We have 4 distinct seasons. I'm going to say, and I could be wrong on this, probably at least 40% of our population is of Hispanic origin.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those people are Spanish. Some of them are Mexican. And we do have a large influence of undocumented aliens here, which we're one of 4 states, or maybe even less, in the United States that allows undocumented, when I say undocumented, people who can't prove citizenship,
right,
to have driver's licenses.
Hmm.
You know, and in the borders of Mexico, I was watching the news this morning in the city of Juarez, there are 30 people killed a day because of the drug wars going on down there.
Oh.
So it's it's got very strong Native American influence. I'm unproud to say that we have 19 different pueblos or tribes here, and we have probably about 12 casinos. So it's very diverse.
Very diverse, very diverse. And as you know, I was there 20 years ago, which is
almost exactly 20 years ago. I found it October of '92.
Is that when we did it? Tell us about the auction we did for our listeners, because it's always great to hear you tell the story.
It was an extraordinary event. It was a different company than most companies are today, and it was really a portfolio of properties that the RTC, the Resolution Trust, owned.
Yep. And
your company at that time, Fisher Auction, was tasked with selling these properties.
Mm-hmm.
We sold, and I remember this. I don't remember what happened last week, but I remember what happened then. We sold 702 properties. We started at 6:30 in the evening. We ended up at 1:30 in the morning. The average sale took about 45 to 60 seconds, and there was 30 seconds of jazz playing between each sale. And there had to be 1,000 people in the room. And one of the thoughts I've always had about real estate is where you really make your money is when you buy stuff, not when you sell stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that auction, a lot of people got very wealthy.
They did. They did.
I mean, there were properties that within 3 or 4 years sold for 10 times what the people paid for it.
And you always want to buy low, sell high, something like that, right?
That's one of the premises that I've tried to work on. It doesn't always work. But you gotta be daring to do some of this stuff.
True.
And as I look at the business world, particularly as I get more mature, I realize that there's a direct relationship between risk and reward. And if you're going to buy a land lease that a major retailer has been in business for 200 years, you're going to get a very low return because the risk is low. So,
well, one of the ways that auction companies work with brokers, and I think it's a great marriage, is number one, they register their buyers at the auction and get paid a commission. Another way is to refer some business to an auction firm. You've got a client that says, geez, I got to sell now, and who do you suggest? And we get a call from a broker. The third way is how you and I got together, and when we have a large group of properties like we did 20 years ago, we look for a firm that can help us to promote the properties, to manage the auction, to give more credibility, and to know about the properties in the area. And you were just a perfect fit for us. We just had a ball with you and your staff. It was crazy. I remember, I think it was the only time that we ever had a buyer seminar, and there were so many people that we had to do it twice. So we after 40 minutes, we said thank you very much and please leave, because we have another 200 people outside that want to come in just to learn about the auction. So you and your group did a fantastic job and really made things work for us. So I want to thank you on that.
Well, I appreciate that. I'll tell you something that's interesting, and maybe this is a measure of sorts. So we transferred 702 properties from the U.S. government to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases, people bought multiple properties.
Mm-hmm.
And my memory always serves me well in the legal area. I don't believe I received one lawyer's letter out of those 702 transactions.
Wow.
And I think everything eventually closed. So while you're sucking up to me, bud, I'm going to suck up to you a little bit, because you had the ability to manage. I've managed a sales force for over 40 years, and I always thought of myself as like an orchestra conductor. And my job was to make sure that the French horns played at the right time,
mm-hmm.
the right notes. And so there was a pure orchestration in running something like this. And there have been other companies in Albuquerque, and we have participated, or at least I'm just nosy and I go look. None of them are as well organized as you guys.
Well, thank you.
I would tell you also, there has not been much auction activity in New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
There may have been in the sale of notes, which you don't need to get a group of people together to do that, but there's been very, very few real estate auctions, particularly of distressed properties. It really surprises me.
Well, you talked about the United States government, and this is something that I've been on for more than a year now. Last year, I read and listened to President Obama saying that we've got 14,000 unused properties that we should sell, and we can save the taxpayers billions of dollars. So I've been up to Washington a couple of times, met with congressmen, senators, the GSA, the GAO, CBO, Congressional Budget Office. I really kind of immersed myself in it to try to find out what the deal is, because I know that a property that is not being used is costing somebody something. And in regular practice...
Or it's not on the tax rolls.
True, very true. There's a prime example. I already mentioned it early this show, but there's a post office up in Washington D.C. that costs the United States government $6 million a year to maintain and secure, and it hasn't been used for 10 years. Now that's just waste that you and I as a taxpayer are paying for. And I am trying to help promote, and I'm biased because I think auctions are the fairest way, very transparent way to sell property, and that's the way to do it. But Congressman Dennison from California sponsored a bill called H.R. 1734 that got passed in the House of Representatives, and now it's moving over to the Senate, and we're just hoping that this gets done, because it's not just the money that could help the deficit, John, but it's also monies that you and I are paying for unknowingly for properties that are not being used. So tell me, as a commercial real estate broker, does it cost money to have a property that you haven't used for a few years?
Well, of course it does. And there are social issues that are associated with that as well. I think the obvious cost, the lack of, if it's government owned, the lack of it being on the tax rolls, the lack of paying gross receipts tax, particularly in New Mexico, is gross receipts tax on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Lack of somebody being able to put it into profitable use. But a lot of these properties you're talking about have more in blighted areas, and it just leads to further degradation of the community. It's very easy to cite what the problem is, but very difficult to, particularly when you're working with government, to figure out what the resolution is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what you and I could do as pragmatic businessmen, we could look at something. You do this in your business every day. You make a decision.
Right.
Well, I'm vice chairman of this bank that I mentioned before, and I have gotten in the last 10 years an intimate relationship, whether I like it or not, with the regulators, with
Mm-hmm.
the OCC.
Yeah.
And it is unbelievable of the paradigm difference between the way the government thinks and the way a productive business person thinks. I thought I said that pretty good without trashing them, huh? But I mean, it's very, very interesting, and so there's 14,000. I think a lot of those are residential properties too, which so many homeless people.
No. These 14,000 properties are office buildings, they're warehouses, and they are land properties that have not been used. The government has no plans to use them, and they could be saving. Let me get a quote here.
You could probably save $1 billion a year just by getting rid of all the unnecessary right-of-way that the communities own.
It says right here in Congressman Denham newsletter, our nation is over $15 trillion in debt, and in 2009 alone, the federal government wasted more than $1.7 billion in operating costs for underused buildings. So it's kind of a mess. I've met Congressman Denham for just a brief time, but at least he's pushing it, and I guess he did it in California too. There's properties that are not being used. We need to sell them, get them back on the tax rolls. Good for the good for the municipalities. And you talked a little bit about that. When you have something that is not being maintained properly, that contributes to a blighted area. Well, I'll go the other way around. Once you sell it, once you have somebody that comes in the private sector that now takes care of the building, now hires new people, hires contractors and services and goods, and now makes the building area better and the community better, that helps all the neighbors, correct?
Damn, you sound like a Republican. But it is interesting. I have, since some of my job responsibilities have diminished, I've had the biggest change in my life is I have time to think now.
Uh-huh.
I actually have the ability to go to meetings prepared.
Nice.
Better not go there. And so I get to think about a lot of this stuff, and you think about some of the oxymoron kind of stuff, that the relationships that government has even with itself, that it's like if we could start over again. I heard this morning that the average American is going to pay 26% of their income in tax, and that was determined that you will work from January 1st to April 17th, which happens to be the day taxes are due this year,
Mm-hmm.
and that portion of your work life goes to taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's talking about state, federal, local, and I presume you're talking ad valorem taxes and all this stuff.
Right.
Well, hell, if we had a 20% flat tax, we probably would have more money for the government. Maybe I shouldn't go there.
Yeah, probably not. This is a real estate show.
Well, I don't get the opportunity. Here in New Mexico, we never talk to more than 7 or 8 people.
John, thank you so much for calling in. It's always a pleasure. You and I remain friends, 20 years later, and look forward to getting out there to see
but
you
let me
again.
say my telephone number if anybody wants
Yes.
any information on New Mexico.
Yep.
My direct line is 505-880-7000, and I pride myself in being able to answer questions on almost anything, although the quality of the answer is proportionate to the amount of knowledge I have.
Well, you are a superstar in the New Mexico real estate arena, my friend, and
thank you for the flattery. I really appreciate it and need it.
Absolutely. John, you take care. Have a great weekend, and again, thank you so much for calling in.
Okay.
Take care now. Bye-bye. Okay, John Lewinger, truly a superstar in the area of commercial real estate. I'm gonna go even further in the commercial real estate area nationwide. He's got that kind of power and knowledge, and so, John, thank you so much for being on. Okay, we've got somebody else. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, Doug, how are you? This is Carlton from Rowell.
Very good, Carlton Jones. Tell me what you do at Rowell Auctions, Carlton.
Well, I am the IT director at Rowell Auctions, which pretty much puts me in charge of all things technology over there, but mainly the website and making sure that everything gets posted to the website correctly and it looks good and complete information, and it's got what our auctioneers have provided for us.
Well, our business is so much on the marketing side, so you're absolutely right when you say you got your hands in everything, because if we don't market it properly and be able to promote the properties properly, it doesn't matter as much. Come auction time, you've got to get that information out to the potential investors and buyers, and you do a great job on that. And want to again say thank you for your fine work. As an IT director, I'm not even sure what IT means. What does IT mean as an IT director?
It's information technology.
Okay.
It's really kind of a catch-all for technology. But you mentioned that a unique challenge in the auction business, at least, is that we don't necessarily always have the same types of assets coming in every day, and that that's a unique challenge that we have as an auction firm. Is that not only are we trying to communicate for the investors, but then next week we might have a completely different type of asset, and that provides a unique challenge too. And that's I think where really auctioneers shine, is that we're versed in marketing all types of assets.
Well, again, I agree. You're, 1 week you're in Florida doing an auction of commercial assets, and the next week you're in South Carolina doing land, and the next week it's all residential homes in Georgia, and so it is a unique challenge that we have. Tell us, how did you get into this business, Carlton?
Well, I went to school for it. I was interested in computers at a fairly early age, and it just made sense when I was going through school to continue my education in it, and I've been interested in it. And I started in customer service on the phones. I'm sure some people have probably talked to me before, and then kind of graduated out from there and sort of moved up the ladder as I went along, and to my present position. So,
what is this thing called social media, and how does it help us get our information, our properties, our real estate properties out to potential buyers, which obviously help the sellers? What is social media?
Well, social media is really, the internet so far, up until the introduction of social media, has really kind of been a cold, clinical, informative online encyclopedia, basically. And what social media has introduced or reintroduced is the personal interactions between people that are happening online, though, this time. And that's really, it's been sort of a game changer in that, we're not doing anything different. It's still just people talking, except now we're talking to each other through vast distances and different countries, different cultures, and social media is really just getting back to the basics of business. You're removing the anonymity from online interactions, and Facebook is a huge company now. That's probably the primary site that most people would consider for social media is Facebook, and they're growing. I think they have something on the upside of 750 million users at this point.
Phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, it's close to being 1 in 7 people on the planet are on Facebook, and that's an insane number. And so as it grows, it's just something that's going to be with us, and it's something that it gives you an opportunity to reach your buyer, and it gives you an opportunity to reach your seller as well. It's just communicating. It's just business as usual, but now we're talking on the internet as well.
Well, it's business, but it's a whole bunch different. And
right.
And a guy that I've been around in auctions, for 20 plus years, and I remember gathering all the addresses so that we could get the brochure and mail it out to these people, and the time it took to do that and the cost it took to do that. And then we started to use the fax machine and said, hey, great things, we got your fax number and we're going to send you what's coming up. And now it is, with a push of the button, not exactly that easy, but so instantaneous that we can communicate to our clients, our friends, our buyers about a property and properties that they might be interested in to make money, basically.
Correct. And I joke with my parents sometimes. I say, how did you ever talk to anyone that you ever went to college with? I mean, for me, it's kind of built in. I mean, and people that are growing up today, they're going to maintain a set of contacts and friends and relatives.
Yes.
From when they can first get onto social media at about age 13. So, you're not having to maintain that old black book of addresses that are probably out of date anyways. They're already there. Those people are wishing to remain current and in touch with you. And it's a large library of people that you've talked to. So it does make business as well as sharing family photos that much easier. Like you said, it's just really made the world a smaller place.
We've got about a minute and a half left in the show, but we've got some big auctions coming up. Can you quickly tell us in a summary basis what kind of properties are coming up and where?
Well, yeah, next Saturday, not this Saturday, we're going to have there's 3 farms that we're going to be auctioning for about a total of 308 acres that will be auctioned on site in Omega, Georgia. And then we're going to follow that up with on the 1st. There's going to be 3 assets, three I believe they're homes throughout the Georgia as well. And then a real big auction that's it's kind of out there right now, but May 15th, if you want to get out in front of it, is 126 various properties across Georgia as well. It's a bank-owned properties that will be offered.
Carlton, it sounds like incredible possibilities for a buyer. How do they find out about these properties? What's the website? What's the 800 number?
It's RowellAuctions.com, ROWELL auctions with an S.com, and the 800 number is 800-323-8388.
Give us that 800 number one more time.
800-323-8388, and you can speak to the auction coordinator and ask him all sorts of questions to figure out what's going on with the auction that you're interested in.
Perfect. Hey, Carlton, thanks so much for calling in on this Friday afternoon. Have a great weekend. We appreciate your hard work.
Thank you, Doug. Bye-bye.
You take care. All right. We're signing off. Again, another great show. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much being part of the program. Take care.